Have you ever felt like someone is deliberately trying to get under your skin, like they're just waiting for you to explode so they can watch the show? Maybe it's a coworker who always makes snide comments in meetings, or a family member who knows exactly which words to use to break your spirit. They smile while they poke at your weaknesses. They act innocent, but deep down you can feel the game they're playing. And in that moment, your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, and everything inside you screams to react, to defend, to fight back. But what if you didn't? What if you could look them dead in the eye and feel absolutely nothing? Staying calm when people are pushing your buttons isn't about pretending you don't feel hurt or angry. It's about mastering those feelings so they don't control you. Because the truth is, people who try to trigger you don't want your silence. They want your reaction. They want to pull you down into their chaos, because chaos is where they feel most powerful. It's their way of controlling you without lifting a finger. Every time you take the bait, every time you respond with anger or frustration, you give them exactly what they want, your power. And over time, they chip away at your peace, your confidence, your control. But here's the truth. Most people never realize no one has the power to make you feel anything unless you hand them that power. And that's where your greatest strength lies. Imagine being so grounded in yourself that no matter what anyone says or does, you remain calm, unbothered, focused. Imagine the respect you'd command, the peace you'd carry, the clarity you'd feel. That isn't just a dream, it's a skill, a weapon. And when you learn how to use it, no one can touch you. You don't need to yell to be heard. You don't need to argue to prove your worth. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is not react at all, because your reaction tells the world who's really in control, your emotions or your awareness. Think about that. The more reactive you are, the more easily you're manipulated. But the moment you stop giving people access to your buttons, they stop having any power over you. That's not weakness. That's emotional intelligence. That's mastery. The people who try to trigger you, they're often struggling within themselves, insecure, lost, envious, or craving attention. They may never admit it, but their chaos is a reflection of their own pain. And if you absorb it, you become part of it. But if you rise above it, you expose it for what it is, empty noise. When you remain calm, you're not ignoring the disrespect. You're choosing not to let it infect your peace. That choice, again and again, is what builds real strength. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you're reprogramming your brain to respond differently. You're not just controlling the moment, you're transforming your mind. And there's a powerful reward waiting for you, peace that no one can steal, confidence that no insult can shake, and control that turns every confrontation into an opportunity. Not to win over them, but to win over yourself. This journey isn't about pleasing people. It's not about pretending to be okay when you're not. It's about understanding that some people will always try to trigger you because they are triggered by your calm. Your strength threatens their insecurity. Your silence exposes their noise. And that's exactly why you must protect your peace like it's sacred. Because it is. Let them say what they want. Let them do what they must. You don't owe anyone your energy. You don't have to explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Your power is not in shouting back. It's in standing firm, breathing deep, and walking away with your head held high. That's real control. That's the kind of calm that moves mountains. So if you've ever felt drained by the people who constantly test your patience, know this. You're not weak for feeling triggered. You're human. But the goal isn't to stop people from pushing your buttons. The goal is to remove the buttons altogether, to become so secure within yourself that you don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Because when you no longer react, you take back your power. And once that power is yours again, the world can try to shake you, but you will not fall. Stay till the end, because this isn't just about surviving difficult people. It's about becoming someone they can never shake. Someone who doesn't just keep the peace, but is the peace. And once you reach that level, everything in your life begins to change. There's a moment, just a split second, when someone says something cruel, dismissive, or calculated to hurt you. In that moment, your entire nervous system lights up, your heart beats faster, your face flushes, your body gets ready to fire back. That's not weakness, that's biology. Your brain is wired for survival, and it doesn't know the difference between a verbal attack and a physical threat. But here's where your true power begins, not in denying that reaction, but in mastering what you do next. The greatest weapon you have is the pause, that tiny, quiet space between what was said and how you choose to respond. Most people never claim it. They leap into reaction. They fire off words they can't take back. They mirror the chaos that was thrown at them. And when the moment passes, they're left with regret, guilt, and a mind that replays it over and over. But when you learn to pause, just breathe, just wait, you create space for clarity. That pause is where you reclaim control. You don't need to respond in the heat of emotion. In fact, that's when your words are the most fragile and your actions the most regrettable. Emotions are like waves. They rise, crash, and then pass. If you can sit through the intensity without being pulled under, you come out stronger. That pause, that silence, that stillness, it's where real power lives. And it's not just philosophy, it's backed by science. Neuroscientists have found that practicing delayed response strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making and emotional regulation. The more you pause, the stronger that mental muscle becomes. Every time you take a breath instead of snapping back, you're literally rewiring your brain to choose calm over chaos. You're building emotional endurance. And it's in those moments that people begin to notice something different about you. They'll push and prod and wait for the old you to show up, but you don't. You hold the line. You stay grounded. And in doing so, you become untouchable. This doesn't mean you stay silent forever. It doesn't mean you let disrespect slide. It means you respond when your mind is clear, not clouded by anger. You speak from strength, not reaction. That changes everything. Your words land differently. Your presence carries more weight. Because now you're not speaking to defend your ego. You're speaking from a place of intention, truth, and power. There's something magnetic about people who stay calm under pressure. They don't flinch. They don't explain. They don't match energy. They hold their own. And in a world full of noise, that kind of presence is rare. It commands respect without demanding it. People instinctively trust those who can stay calm in the storm, because calm people think, they see, they listen, and they act when it counts, not when emotions are high, but when wisdom is present. And let's be honest, most of the things people say to trigger you aren't even about you, they're about them. Their pain, their insecurities, their need to feel important, even if it's by bringing someone else down. When you understand that, you stop taking things personally. You stop internalizing every jab and comment. Instead, you start seeing it clearly, a person trying to offload their pain onto you. And that's a burden you no longer have to carry. You are not here to absorb other people's dysfunction. You're not here to be a punching bag for someone else's bitterness. You are here to build something real. Peace within, purpose ahead, power in every choice. That starts with the pause, the breath, the space between the chaos and your calm. It's the difference between living on edge and living in control. So the next time someone tries to ignite your fire, let them talk. Let them throw their words like stones. But don't pick them up. Don't throw them back. Stand still. Breathe deep. Hold the silence. Because silence doesn't mean defeat. It means discipline. And the ones who master that silence become unstoppable. Eventually, they'll notice. The ones who once triggered you will sense the shift. They'll push harder just to see if you'll crack. But you won't. Because you've outgrown the need to prove anything to anyone. You've learned to protect your peace, not by building walls, but by building wisdom. You don't move to defend. You stay to observe. You don't rush to reply. You wait until your words are sharp, clean, and unshakable. That's how warriors move. Calm is not the absence of emotion, it's the command of it. And when you learn to pause, to wait, to breathe, you stop being a puppet pulled by strings. You become the one who holds them. Keep going. Because this version of you, the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't explode, doesn't fall into every trap, is the version that builds real freedom. You're not here to be a victim of your reactions. You're here to be the master of your mind. That's what changes everything. The more you practice stillness, the more you begin to see the patterns, what triggers you, who triggers you, and why. And this is where most people miss the mark. They focus so much on reacting to others that they never stop to question what inside them is being touched. A trigger only exists when something within you is sensitive, unresolved, or unhealed. That sting you feel when someone disrespects you, that's more than just words. It's a signal, a sign that something deep is asking to be faced, not ignored. Self-awareness is the next level of strength. It's not just about staying calm on the outside. It's about understanding yourself on the inside. Why do certain people get under your skin more than others? Why do specific words or actions make your heart race or your hands tremble? That reaction is connected to something deeper, something from your past, your experiences, your self-image. And until you confront those roots, your peace will always be at risk. It takes courage to sit with yourself and ask, why does this hurt me so much? But that question unlocks the truth. Maybe you were never allowed to speak up as a child, so now any form of disrespect feels unbearable. Maybe you were constantly compared, so now criticism cuts like a knife. These are not flaws. They are emotional wounds. And the moment you become aware of them, you stop being controlled by them. You stop giving unconscious power to the people who unknowingly or deliberately poke at those soft spots. Your triggers are not your enemies. They're your teachers. They show you where your work lies. And that's not something to fear. It's something to embrace. Because every trigger is an opportunity to heal. Every time you pause and reflect instead of reacting, you're not suppressing your feelings. You're honoring them. You're saying, I see you, I understand you, and I'm not going to let you ruin my peace. That's what emotional mastery looks like. It's not about being perfect. It's not about never getting angry, never feeling hurt. It's about choosing what to do with that emotion. Anger can be a guide, pain can be a compass, but only if you slow down enough to listen. When you react blindly, you let the wound run the show. When you pause and reflect, you put the power back in your hands. That's where transformation begins, not just on the surface, but at the core. Some people will spend their whole lives blaming others for how they feel. They'll say things like, he made me mad, or she ruined my day. But no one can make you feel anything without your permission. That doesn't mean what they did was right. It means you have the final say in what lives inside your mind. That's a kind of freedom most never taste, because it requires taking full ownership. Not of what others do, but of how you carry it. When you understand your triggers, you become less reactive and more intentional. You don't just survive difficult moments. You learn from them. You use them to sharpen your awareness, strengthen your boundaries, and deepen your emotional intelligence. And slowly, the same situations that used to shake you now feel different, calmer, lighter, because you've grown beyond the need to be understood by everyone. You've learned to understand yourself. This is the turning point. The place where power shifts back into your hands, not because others changed, but because you did. You stopped seeing the trigger as an attack and started seeing it as a mirror. You stopped defending your pain and started healing it. And once you start walking that path, there's no going back. You become more rooted, more centered, more powerful in a quiet, undeniable way. People will still try to trigger you. That won't stop. But now, you'll see it for what it is. You won't be fooled by the noise. You'll recognize when someone is projecting their pain, when someone is testing your boundaries, when someone is reaching out from their own brokenness. And instead of matching their energy, you'll rise above it. Not with ego, with wisdom. That's what makes you unstoppable. Not how loud you can be, not how many comebacks you have, but how deeply you know yourself. Because once you understand your emotional patterns, your reactions, your wounds, you stop being a puppet to anyone's games. You move with purpose. You speak with clarity. You choose with intention. And that kind of strength, that kind of calm, is not built overnight. It's built with honesty, with reflection, with a daily decision to respond, not react, to pause, not explode, to explore, not suppress. And every time you make that choice, you build a foundation no one can shake. You become someone who doesn't just survive the storm, but learns from it, grows through it, and stands taller because of it. When you stop reacting to everything, something incredible begins to happen. Your mind gets quiet. Not empty, but clear. And in that clarity, you finally start to hear your own voice again. Not the noise of anger, not the voice of fear or insecurity, but the real you, the one buried beneath years of defense, pain, and automatic reactions. That voice is steady, wise, calm, and it doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. It doesn't get dragged into drama or chaos. It doesn't entertain nonsense. It simply observes, understands, and decides. And that's the shift most people never make. They go through life on autopilot, reacting to every comment, every glance, every opinion like it's a personal attack. But the truth is, most of it has nothing to do with you. Most people speak from their own experiences, their own pain, their own filters. And when you realize that, you no longer feel the need to take on what isn't yours. You start letting things pass through you, not stick to you. And in that moment, you become lighter, freer, stronger. There's real power in not taking things personally. It's not detachment, it's understanding. When someone insults you, it says more about their character than yours. When someone tries to provoke you, it reveals their instability, not yours. And when you can see that clearly, you stop internalizing it. You stop carrying emotional weight that doesn't belong to you. That's what emotional maturity looks like. Not suppressing your emotions, but choosing what deserves your energy. This choice isn't passive, it's active. It's a daily discipline. Because every day people will test you. They'll project their pain, their bitterness, their fear onto you, hoping you'll bite, hoping you'll stoop to their level. But you won't. Because now you know better. You've outgrown the games. You've outgrown the need to fight for your peace. You simply protect it, like the most sacred part of who you are. You start to realize that your calm is not just a personal benefit. It's a form of leadership. It influences people without words. It shows others what strength truly looks like. And that's rare, because most people associate power with dominance, aggression, or control. But real power is quiet. It doesn't seek attention, it doesn't shout, it just is. And when you become that kind of presence, still, grounded, unshakable, people feel it before you even speak. You are no longer triggered by the things that once consumed you. You no longer react just to prove a point. You let others talk, rant, attack, and you stay rooted. That kind of self-control isn't weakness. It's proof of deep inner work. Proof that you've chosen to respond with wisdom, not emotion. And that doesn't mean you let everything slide. It means you choose your battles. You choose your moments. You rise above what doesn't deserve you. This is not about being passive. It's about being strategic with your peace. Every time you stay calm in the face of provocation, you're not avoiding conflict, you're controlling it. You're not running away. You're choosing not to be baited. That's a very different kind of power, and it's the kind that builds legacies. You don't need to shout to be heard. Your silence speaks volumes. You don't need to defend yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Your actions, your presence, your self-respect, they speak louder than any words ever could. And the moment you embrace that, you stop seeking validation from the wrong places. You validate yourself, you trust your own judgment, you walk away when you need to, not out of fear but out of strength. It's not about being unaffected by life. It's about becoming deeply grounded within it, centered in who you are, secure in your values, clear on what deserves your time, your energy, your peace. And from that place, you begin to make different choices, healthier choices, stronger boundaries, deeper connections. You attract peace because you embody it. You inspire calm because you live it. And that's the reward that few talk about. Not just surviving the chaos, but becoming a light in the middle of it. Not just avoiding being triggered, but turning every trigger into transformation. That's how you grow. That's how you evolve. And that's how you become the kind of person who doesn't just navigate the world, but shapes it. You are no longer a prisoner to your emotions. You are the architect of your inner world. You don't beg for peace, you build it. You don't demand respect. You command it through your calm. And the more you practice this, the more powerful you become. Because nothing is more powerful than a person who has mastered their own mind. They move with clarity, they speak with purpose, and they live without fear. That is who you are becoming. Not someone who gets thrown off by every opinion, every insult, every moment of tension, but someone who knows their worth, guards their energy, and chooses their peace every single time. That is your power, that is your edge. And once you step into it, there is no one who can take it away. Calm is not something you stumble upon. It's something you build. And like anything worth building, it takes effort, commitment, and consistency. You can't expect to face the world's chaos with peace if you don't create peace within yourself first. The calm you desire in conflict begins with the habits you develop in solitude. If you want to be unshakable when people provoke you, you must train for it when no one is watching. You must become intentional with your mental space, just as you would with your physical strength. Your inner world is like a fortress. It can either be open and vulnerable to every passing storm, or it can be solid, grounded, and secure. And the difference lies in what you practice daily. You don't wake up calm, you become calm through discipline, through rituals that keep your spirit aligned, your thoughts clear, and your reactions under control. Because chaos outside will always exist. But whether or not it lives inside you is your choice. You build this inner calm by starting each day with presence. Before the world demands your attention, give it to yourself. Even 5 minutes of silence, breath, or focused thought can change the direction of your entire day. That space isn't empty, it's powerful. It's where you gather yourself before the noise begins. And the more you return to that space, the more your mind learns to slow down, to reflect, to respond, not react. You train your nervous system the same way you train your muscles, through repetition, breath by breath, thought by thought. When someone triggers you and you pause, you're exercising mental strength. When you choose not to raise your voice in a heated moment, you're building emotional control. These choices, small and quiet, stack up over time, and eventually, they become who you are. This kind of discipline isn't glamorous, it's not loud or showy, but it changes you from the inside out. And it's necessary, because without it, you'll keep falling into old cycles, patterns that sabotage your peace and leave you drained. But with it, you rise. You begin to feel more in control, even when the world feels out of control. And that control is not about manipulating others. It's about mastering yourself. You don't have to meditate for hours or journal every thought to become grounded. But you do have to pay attention. You have to be honest about what steals your peace, and you have to set boundaries to protect it. You have to recognize the difference between rest and distraction, between growth and avoidance. You have to become someone who prioritizes their inner state over temporary comfort. This work isn't easy. It forces you to confront the parts of yourself that react, explode, or retreat. But facing them is the only way to free yourself from them. Because no matter how strong your outer world looks, if your inner world is in chaos, it will eventually show. You'll lash out at the wrong person. You'll shut down at the wrong moment. You'll carry tension that poisons your thoughts, your words, your relationships. But when your inner world is steady, your outer world starts to follow. You become the person others look to, not for noise, but for peace. Your calm becomes contagious. Your presence becomes grounding. You start to notice that people treat you differently, not because you've changed your appearance or your status, but because your energy feels safe, strong, clear. And the people who thrive on conflict, they won't know what to do with that. They won't be able to control you. And that's when you know you've stepped into real power. You begin to choose your environments more carefully. You stop tolerating chaos as normal. You stop allowing emotional instability into your space just because you're used to it. You raise your standards, not out of arrogance, but out of protection, because now you know the value of your peace. You've fought for it, you've practiced it, and you're not about to give it up for someone else's lack of self-control. Calm doesn't mean you're emotionless. It means you're emotionally mature. You feel deeply, but you're not enslaved by those feelings. You experience pain, but you don't let it make you reactive. You process anger, but you don't turn it into destruction. You hold your ground, not because you're cold, but because you're clear. That's the kind of calm that can't be shaken. It's not a mood, it's a mindset. Not something you turn on and off, but something you live. And when you live it, it transforms everything. You start making decisions from a place of clarity. You stop chasing validation. You start speaking only when your words have weight. And you begin to live as someone who doesn't just handle pressure, but thrives under it. You're not building a life that's free from challenge. You're building a mind that remains calm within it. That's what makes you powerful. Not the absence of storms, but your ability to stay rooted while they pass. And the more you train that calm daily, the more unstoppable you become. Because when the mind is steady, the world can shake, and you will not fall. True calm begins to flourish when you learn how to protect it, not just with silence, not just with breath, but with boundaries. You can master your triggers, you can build mental discipline, but if you continue to allow toxic energy into your life without filter, that calm will always be under attack. There comes a time when you have to stop waiting for people to change and start changing how much access they have to you. Not everyone deserves to walk freely through the space you fought so hard to clean. Boundaries are not walls, they're clarity. They are the lines that define where your energy ends and someone else's chaos begins. Without them, you absorb everything. Every insult, every manipulation, every guilt trip, every attempt to drain you. And then you wonder why you feel tired, why your peace keeps slipping away. But the truth is, no one can continuously invade your mental and emotional space unless you keep the door unlocked. You don't set boundaries to control others. You set them to honor yourself, to protect your energy, to make peace your standard, not a rare condition. And that takes courage. It means saying no when it's easier to say yes. It means disappointing people who benefit from your silence. It means being misunderstood, judged, and even resented for refusing to carry what doesn't belong to you. But the price of protecting your peace is always cheaper than the cost of living without it. Most people aren't ready for the version of you that stops apologizing for needing space, that stops explaining why you won't tolerate disrespect, that doesn't flinch when someone tries to cross a line. But that version of you, the one with clear boundaries, is the one that finally becomes free. Free from manipulation, free from emotional exhaustion, free from the constant need to defend yourself. There's a calm that comes from knowing what you will and won't allow. A confidence that rises when you no longer bend to every demand. You become someone who doesn't just survive chaos, you neutralize it. Not with force, but with standards, with limits, with the quiet power of someone who knows their worth. Your boundaries are a reflection of your self-respect. The more you value yourself, the less you tolerate what disturbs your peace. You stop entertaining drama. You stop giving second chances to disrespect. You stop explaining basic decency. Not because you're cold, but because you've evolved. You've learned that peace isn't something you find out there. It's something you protect in here. And yes, it may feel uncomfortable at first. You may feel guilt, fear, or doubt when you start enforcing your limits. That's natural. You've been conditioned to believe that your worth is tied to your availability, your kindness, your ability to endure. But your worth is not measured by how much you can take, it's measured by how much you honor yourself. Every time you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what strengthens you. That shift is where power is born. You are not selfish for refusing to carry other people's emotional baggage. You are not mean for expecting respect. You are not rude for choosing silence over conflict. You are simply becoming someone who understands that being calm is not just about self-control, it's about self-respect, about drawing the line where peace ends and poison begins. People will test your boundaries. They always do, especially those who were once comfortable crossing them. But let them push, let them question, let them react, because how they respond is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to protect the version of you that no longer sacrifices her peace to keep the world comfortable. That version of you is rising, stronger, wiser, sharper, and when you fully commit to that version of yourself, you stop shrinking. You stop playing small. You stop walking on eggshells in spaces that never honored your presence. You begin to attract peace, not because you chase it, but because you become it. And the more you enforce your boundaries, the more peace becomes your normal. The more calm becomes your resting state. The more confidence begins to radiate from you, silently, but powerfully. You don't need to defend your boundaries. You need to enforce them, quietly, consistently, without drama, without warning. And with every line you hold, your life begins to shift. The noise fades, the confusion clears, and what remains is a space that's safe, clean, and strong. A space where your calm can finally breathe. This is where your real power is, not in how much you can endure, but in how clearly you choose to protect your peace. When you master that, no one can shake you. They can try to trigger you, but the door is closed. They can try to test you, but the line is drawn. And they will realize, maybe for the first time, that your peace is not up for negotiation. It's permanent. Because you made it so. When you've tasted the power of true peace, you stop entertaining anything that threatens it. The noise of other people's opinions, the manipulation disguised as care, the constant emotional bait to drag you back into old patterns, none of it holds weight anymore. You start to feel it instantly, the pull of energy that doesn't align. And instead of doubting your instincts, you honor them. That internal radar, it's not paranoia. It's protection. It's your soul whispering, this isn't for you. And for once, you listen. You don't argue with it. You walk away, quietly, confidently, completely. There is a power in that silence that no outburst can match. You don't have to scream to prove a point. You don't have to explain your exit. Sometimes, the most powerful move you can make is to say nothing and do everything. Walk away from the chaos. Shut the door with grace. Choose calm over revenge. Let them wonder. Let them talk. Let them spin their narratives. Because you are no longer playing in their storm, you are building your sky. The greatest revenge is peace, not because it punishes others, but because it sets you free. Free from over-explaining, free from defending your boundaries, free from chasing closure from people who are never capable of giving it. You realize they don't need to understand, they don't need to agree, they don't even need to apologize. Because the closure doesn't come from them, it comes from the moment you stop waiting for it. That's when the healing begins. Not when they finally say the right words, but when you finally stop needing them to. Your growth will intimidate those still married to dysfunction. They will call you cold, distant, difficult. But that's only because they can no longer reach the version of you that used to tolerate what was breaking her. You're not hard to love. You were just surrounded by people who wanted you to keep shrinking so they could stay comfortable. And now that you've risen, now that your silence says more than your words ever could, they're uncomfortable. Good. Let them be. That discomfort is the sound of their control slipping away. You don't owe anyone the old version of you, the one who over-apologized, who explained every boundary, who tolerated disrespect under the mask of understanding. You owe you the new version, the one who's not afraid to disappoint others in order to be loyal to herself, the one who's not afraid to say, I deserve better, and mean it. No hesitation, no guilt, no second-guessing. Your calm is a declaration now. It says, I'm no longer controlled by chaos. It says, I choose myself not because I'm selfish, but because I'm done bleeding to keep others warm. It says, you don't get to shake me just because you're unhappy. This is what emotional maturity looks like. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's not reactive, it's still, it's clear. It's unbothered. And the people who truly love you, they will honor that calm. They will match your peace. They won't test your boundaries. They'll respect them. They won't demand explanations. They'll understand your silence. Because when someone sees your worth, they don't play games with your presence. They protect it. They appreciate it. They grow with it. You're not asking for too much. You're asking for what's right. Respect, peace, loyalty, emotional safety. And if that makes you too intense or too sensitive, so be it. Be too much. For the wrong people, you always will be. But for the right ones, you'll be a mirror, showing them what self-respect looks like, what healing feels like, what growth demands. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away from what confuses your soul. You are allowed to reinvent yourself without notice. And you are allowed to prioritize your peace without guilt. That's not selfish. That's survival. That's growth. That's alignment. No more apologizing for the boundaries that keep you sane. No more shrinking to fit into places you've outgrown. No more abandoning yourself to gain approval. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be whole. And wholeness requires separation. Separation from noise, from drama, from emotional clutter. You clear it not to be alone, but to finally hear your own voice again. Let the silence become your strength. Let your absence be felt in places where your presence was once taken for granted. Let your peace be louder than their chaos. And let your life be the evidence that you don't need anyone's permission to rise. This is your moment to reclaim your space, your energy, your power. Not with rage, not with noise, but with a calm so deep it can't be disturbed. With a spirit so rooted it can't be moved. With a heart so full of self-respect, it doesn't chase anything or anyone ever again. Because when you know your worth, peace is no longer optional. It's the standard. And from that place, nothing can shake you. Nothing can distract you. Nothing can own you. When you finally start operating from peace rather than panic, everything shifts. You're no longer chasing validation like a drug. You're not negotiating your self-worth in conversations that drain your soul. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, you begin to realize that the quiet inside you is sacred. It's not emptiness, it's clarity. And with that clarity, you no longer feel the urge to prove anything to anyone. You're not in a race. You're not behind. You're exactly where you're meant to be. And that realization alone calms the chaos others tried to plant inside you. You begin to attract differently. The people who once saw your peace as passivity now find themselves confused by your silence. They can't manipulate what they can't trigger. They can't guilt-trip someone who's no longer seeking their acceptance. And that confuses them, because they were counting on the old version of you to keep showing up, begging, explaining, compromising. But that version of you no longer exists. You've buried her, not out of hate, but out of love. Love for yourself, love for your healing, love for the woman you're becoming. This is where real self-respect starts to bloom, not in loud declarations, but in the quiet decisions you make daily to protect your energy. You stop arguing. You stop defending. You stop participating in conversations that cost you your peace. People may call it arrogance, but they don't understand. This isn't pride, it's preservation. You are preserving the version of yourself that doesn't allow chaos to set up camp in her heart. You are honoring the progress you've made by not reopening doors that almost destroyed you. The more grounded you become, the more you start to notice the subtle ways your boundaries are tested. A joke that cuts too deep, a compliment wrapped in condescension, a favor with strings attached. And instead of brushing it off, you feel the disturbance in your spirit. You don't need a meltdown to justify walking away. Your peace speaks louder than your explanation ever could. You no longer betray yourself for the sake of harmony because you've learned that any peace that requires self-abandonment isn't peace, it's control. This level of clarity doesn't come from comfort. It comes from fire, from pain, from sitting with your own broken pieces and deciding to rebuild without waiting for someone else to glue you back together. And because of that, you now carry yourself differently. You move with purpose. You speak with intention. You show up with presence. You don't settle for crumbs in any area of your life because you know you're the whole table. And anyone who comes to sit with you must bring respect, not chaos. People won't always understand your peace. They'll mistake your stillness for weakness. They'll assume your silence is consent. But you know better. You've learned that true power isn't in reaction. It's in restraint. It's in the choice to walk away rather than erupt. It's in the ability to observe without absorbing. It's in the decision to detach with dignity rather than destroy with desperation. That kind of strength isn't loud, but it echoes. And you are the echo of every time you chose yourself in silence, every time you swallowed your pride to protect your growth, every time you chose not to retaliate, not because you were weak, but because you were wise. You are the result of unlearning survival mode and choosing to live in alignment. You no longer feed relationships that starve you. You no longer chase people who treat you like you're optional. You no longer entertain energy that pulls you back into patterns you've outgrown. You've become unshakable, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. You started seeing yourself as the source, not the seeker. You stopped outsourcing your happiness, your confidence, your peace. You took responsibility for your energy, and now you guard it like your life depends on it, because it does. Your peace isn't a luxury, it's your oxygen, and you no longer let anyone choke it out of you with their chaos. Now you carry yourself like someone who's been through the fire but chose to rise instead of burn. Your scars don't scream, they whisper. They say she survived. They say she grew. They say she no longer lives in places she had to heal from. And that whisper becomes your roar. It's felt in every boundary you uphold, in every no you no longer justify, in every door you close without guilt, in every room you leave to protect your light. You've reclaimed your worth, not because someone finally saw it, but because you did. And now that you do, you won't accept anything less than alignment. You won't accept half-hearted love, conditional friendship, or one-sided conversations. You've outgrown begging. You've outgrown confusion. You've outgrown emotional breadcrumbs. Now you crave depth, integrity, consistency. And if it doesn't bring peace, it doesn't belong. This is who you are now, a woman who knows herself so well that she no longer fears solitude. Because solitude has become her sanctuary, her classroom, her strength. She doesn't just survive in silence, she thrives in it. Because in that silence, she found herself. And now that she has, she's never going back. You no longer shrink to make others comfortable. You've realized that minimizing your light doesn't help anyone, it only suffocates your spirit. Every time you silence your truth to maintain a false peace, a part of you fades. And you've done that enough. You've dimmed your voice. You've played small. You've carried the weight of guilt for simply existing too boldly, too loudly, too authentically, but not anymore. You are no longer available for the version of yourself that was addicted to shrinking. You now stand in your fullness, even if it makes others uncomfortable, especially if it makes them uncomfortable, because your presence is not a problem to be solved. It's a gift to be honored. You've reclaimed your space in a world that tried to confine you. You no longer tiptoe around your power. You walk into rooms with the quiet confidence of someone who knows they belong, even when no one claps, because you stopped waiting for applause. You stopped measuring your worth through the lens of who approved or who stayed. Now, you define success by your own inner alignment. If it brings peace, growth, and clarity, you choose it. If it triggers confusion, chaos, and self-betrayal, you release it. It's that simple, not easy, but clear. You don't entertain what drains you anymore. The emotional labor of always showing up while others offer the bare minimum, it's over. The relationships built on your silence, your flexibility, your endless forgiveness, they've expired. Because love without mutual effort isn't love. Connection without respect isn't connection. And loyalty without reciprocity is just self-sabotage dressed as virtue. You've learned this the hard way, through the ache of unmet needs and the exhaustion of always giving. But that pain taught you discernment. It taught you boundaries. It taught you the radical courage to choose yourself, not out of spite, but out of necessity. Now, your silence isn't empty, it's strategic. It's the sound of someone who has nothing left to prove, someone who chooses peace over performance, someone who knows that walking away doesn't mean weakness, it means wisdom. You don't fight to be understood anymore, because some people benefit from misunderstanding you. They twist your kindness, they weaponize your vulnerability, they project their own wounds onto your boundaries, and you've learned not to take it personally. Their reaction says everything about them, and nothing about your